Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So, yeah. Wow. I haven't had my coffee this morning. Actually, it's brewing right now. So, I'm just like, kind of just tripping on some of the things I've been thinking about the last couple of days. And my discovery of finally linking the Anunnaki and as the original pantheon of gods, and then when Greek mythology picked up where they left off. And yes, they evolved humanity, but shaped humanity in a very specific way that I was picking up on as something is wrong in my gut. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, I've lately, in the last couple years, I've been really adversely affected by those that say they love and they say they hate. And when you love someone and hate someone, you are projecting some kind of worship, some kind of just a feeling that is necessary for connectivity, because love and hate does connect people, but it also causes the person who is being loved or hated put on a pedestal and deified. This was what was a little difficult for me to figure out, but I finally figured out. I'm gonna go pour my coffee. Hold on. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's whatever. Okay. So anyway, so the love and the hate of the person casting the love and the hate on another person is not taking responsibility for themselves. They're projecting a feeling, a glorification of the other person. Okay? Putting responsibility of making sure, putting responsibility on the other person to make sure that you're okay. That if you love someone, you expect the return of the love back, and if you don't, this is where the issue is created. And that's where I'm just trying to think how this works. It's setting people up to fail. The whole love and hate on anyone. I mean, I'm in a love contract with my husband. It's a love contract. It's a love/business contract. Okay, we're monogamous and we're also in business together. And that's the only love-hate relationship I have. I may have other relationships that are like business contracts with another person, but everyone else, it's all like platonic, and it is more about just sharing information with no extreme emotions attached to it. And so how the gods got created, because here's the thing, there's gods and there's demigods. So the gods are the immortal ones. What are immortal? People who maintain existence. And that happened way back in the beginning of time during the Anunnaki, the gods Anunnaki. They were just humans that maintained existence, understood the power of salt and sugar. Because remember, ambrosia was a nectar of the gods. Ambrosia is like fruit and sugar and cream or sour cream or whipping cream and coconut flakes or flakes with sugar. And it was a great addition to the energy, the ionic energy of the salt that also gave them life on this planet. So ambrosia was a nectar of the gods. They understood immortality in the sense of biology, that you maintain existence, but you couldn't withstand a very extreme volcano or any extreme temperature change. Okay? And so that's the immortal ones. Okay? That's what immortality is the ability to maintain existence. And then the demigods were the immortals who then had sex with the inhabitants that were like Neanderthals and cavemen. They weren't highly evolved. and they created children who were half immortal and half mortal. And how does that mean half? You might as well be mortal, because, you know, immortality, it just means that a person who knew how to maintain existence had sex with someone who didn't know how to maintain existence. And so you have a god and a demigod, and then you have little demigods. Actually, you have a god and you have a human, and then you have a demigod. But they had, yes, the immortal humans' DNA and the mortals' DNA, and they were demigod, but it was like, it really isn't that much of a difference when you think about it. And so the Greek pantheons really glorified this knowledge of God and demigod, and then the mortals, okay? And really the mortals were the slave class. They were the ones that were left not really knowing anything. They were left with being bioengineered to love and hate, to have their hormones like oxytocin and adrenaline be plucked. And that's where the trauma comes in. Trauma creates the godlike status, the background to create godlike statuses on people. And so when you traumatize, or when you traumatize someone, either through birth, through hurting them, pain, pleasure, when you give someone that type of feelings, you elicit that type of feelings, belonging, then you have deified yourself. When you elicit hate and love from somebody else, you have deified yourself. And then you turn it into worship. And then this is how our society has been constructed, straight from way back in antiquity, when the immortals, the ones who just knew how to maintain existence, figured out how to exploit and manipulate the mortals, and then created demigods by having sex, like they said, you know, the gods that had sex with the daughters of men. Okay, it's not as supernatural as you think. I mean, the giants were huge, yes, so that's a little bit supernatural in our world, because if we see a giant, we would freak out, like Jack and the Beanstalk. But no, the giants were humans, but they were just larger size, and they figured out how to have sex with. But how giant were they? They weren't so giant, because I don't know how, like an ant and an elephant, they couldn't have sex together. So the giants weren't so huge, but they were huge enough that they were able to procreate with the daughters of men and have a bunch of babies. And then the Garden of Eden was the place, the enculturation of humanity. This is where the bioengineering came to be. And there's allegory, and there's the tree of life, and there's all the tree of knowledge, same thing. But it was the love and the hate and the slavery and all of that stuff that really deified people. And so then I see it just in our society, you know, mothers and fathers and sons and daughters, cousins, uncles, aunts, all the familial stuff, teachers, people with degrees, bosses, they all become deified. They all become little demigods. Well, they all become, like right now, we're all demigods. Every single one of us is a demigod. Because either you're a god or a demigod. Because you came from the God DNA, okay? Because that's how were there any original, if you were an original human before Anunnaki came here, you'd be like a total caveman and maybe Bigfoot living out in the middle of the forest, afraid of society, okay? So any human on this earth, because most likely all the original humans back then were died off, and they probably procreated with all the different demigods that were the children of the men and the gods. And so everyone right now in our society is like a demigod. We're given the opportunity to be immortal, but we have not been given the tools to be immortal. And that's the difference. And so then the Greek system has caused then the debate, the love and the hate, and then to annihilate. And so when you are always worshiping a person, place, or thing, I don't care who it is, whether it's Justin Bieber, whether it's William Shatner, whether it's Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, okay? When you're worshiping somebody else, you're taking all responsibility off yourself and you're putting it on someone else to make you happy, to make you sad. Then they have the option to, or they have the opportunity to exploit their position as someone being worshipped. That's why they put Trump up there. That's why they put Biden up there. That's why they put all these different icons. These icons are exploiting their notion that they know that they have so much control over their flock. Pastors too. Oh my God, I put that too. Pastors and rabbis. Oh my gosh. The Pope, he has deified himself. I gotta put this here. Policemen, the Pope, pastors, rabbis. Okay? And so when you're worshiping somebody, and whether they're a rabbi or pope or a pastor or a lawyer or whatever, you're putting all of your life into their hands, and then you're letting them control and dictate how you think and feel and all of that stuff. And so then when someone dies, and it's not like a homicide or a infanticide or a suicide, but suicide is self-inflicted. But when someone dies from natural causes, they're going to blame someone. Because they already give responsibility to someone to make them happy and also make them sad. And so when someone dies, that's also someone else's responsibility. So every single time you love, you hate, you debate, right? And you blame, you are deifying somebody else. You're putting the responsibility of your life in someone else's hands. And that's no different than worshiping a pastor, a priest, a boss, an employer, an icon. Oh, I get it. This is insane. Oh my God. Ugh, I need more sugar in that. Woo. And so I freaking get it. And so that's why the other day when I talked about what was that? I'm gonna find that. About people taking responsibility for, like, they can't imagine that they have to take responsibility for something. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Okay. I can find it. Give me 1 second. All right, well. Oh, it was that video about being personally responsible. I really want to find this. Okay, well. That's okay. Oh. All right, it was... Jesus. I had a lot of stuff. Okay, well, anyways. What it is that I did a talk about someone, you have to be, why a person dies is because they chose to die. And that was the same thing as self-inflicted. People choose to die because they have chosen not to understand both sides of an issue. They have chosen to only listen to one side because another person deified themselves to be all-knowing and listen to someone's one-sided perspective. And that's the whole God and God complex, is that these little demigods out there in social media and in politics, religion, and science have taken very specific sides and have dressed themselves up, yes, to be all-knowing because they have a degree and they're scientists and doctors, but they're coming from a very, very one-sided, one-dimensional perspective. And so when a person only listens to one side, one-dimensional perspective, then they're not getting the bigger picture. And so life in thermodynamics and cellular thermodynamics is multifaceted. There's so many factors and so many things to balance in order to stay alive that when someone dies, they always have to go and blame, whether it's salt, whether it's water, whether it's GMO, whether it's the vaccines, whether it's the therapeutics, the cannabis, the chemotherapy. And so the deification of people has contributed to the lack of accountability of the individual. And it's set up by design. When you're worshiping your daughter or your son and they can do no wrong, you have deified your daughter and your son. When you worship your parents and you worship your uncle and your aunt and your guardian, then they can do no wrong. Even though they have done wrong, you will never acknowledge that they've done wrong, and then you will follow in their footsteps. When you deify your husband or your wife, you have also made them like, yeah, they do no wrong, because when you're in a love business contract, it's going to be, counterproductive for you to try to testify against your husband or wife. And so, of course, they do no wrong in certain areas. Other areas, when it's against you, yes, they do, and you work that out. But if they do anything wrong out there, you're not going to let that, they've done wrong, but you're not going to let that get in the way unless it's like so bad. But that's where a couple has to weigh out their options when they stay with someone. How much can they tolerate if that person does a lot of wrong? Okay, so that's each individual, household's responsibility to figure that out. But deifying, just like your neighbor, let me go back to what I was talking about earlier, or originally. When we deify teachers, scientists, that's the thing. When you're looking up to a musician, a religious figure like the Pope and the pastor, I see, when I was looking out like on Facebook, and I look at some of the cultures and some people like in Peru or in Mexico, and they're going to these churches, it's like no different than way back in the beginning, okay? When the immortal ones came up, and then showed fire and showed certain things to the cavemen and the Neanderthals, and they were just like, oh my God, this is God. Literally, oh my God, to the lesser evolved ones. And so then we have created in our society demigods by eliciting the feelings of love and hate. That's why chocolate and war has created these figures, because if you're killing somebody, you're creating so much hatred. Okay, so if a person is like a serial killer, he's going to be deified as a demon. Okay, no one's going to like him, but he's still like a god, like the god of death type of thing. And then you have people like the Pope or like Mother Teresa, who I guess hasn't really, I don't know, her status has changed over the years, but we have put people on pedestals that, like, like the monks or the Buddha type people or Gandhi or all the different icons of the past, where they're trying to create equality. And so it's a very manipulative, exploitive thing, deifying demigods, and then also train people to be demigods, to exploit their flock, to exploit. And I can see, and you can tell those that want to be a demigoddess, okay? Because there are like the goddesses of the 7 original Anunnaki. There's a Nana and Inanna. One's a Norse god, the other one's a god of fertility, also known as Ishtar as well. And so we have females who have so much oxytocin. They're also called empaths, okay? And I've always clashed with the female empaths that use their sticky sweet, oh, I love you, and coming off like they are all good, all beautiful, all mother, all fertility, all, and very fake. And it is a type of a goddess type persona they have taken on, because it then creates a deification of them people fall under that spell and they start worshiping. And I could tell those females on my page when they were coming through on the JJ mentality, and I chased them off. There's even males that come off like that. All wavy, sticky, sweet, and you could tell they have that guru type persona from the 1960s when they were doing all the meditation and the yoga and the playing with the chakras and the energy and doing all this stuff. I mean, and so I recognize those that want to attain to some kind of like God-like status, but they're doing so much the J juice, because I can't imagine them getting off the J juice and looking like they're evolving. Because I'll tell you, when I was going through the morphine on the COVID-19, and I got off the J juice, I've been off the J juice for a while now. It was so painful on certain nights because of the spasms. It was painful from the coughing. It was painful from just the bloating, okay? Where I knew I had poop. I wasn't going to use J juice to get it out, and I wasn't drinking a lot of milk at the time. And so I was like, lumpy in certain areas. I was irritable. And when someone has a flock of people they're around, that they're trying to convey that they are balanced and kind and compassionate and empathic, they will not entertain the other side of themselves and show it to the world. Oh, people see all sides of me. I don't just put out that I'm a kind, compassionate, goddess of love and fertility. I'm also the darkness too. I'm also the rage, the aggression. I understand all facets of me, and I don't hide them. I don't pretend to be like this mean person who's aggressive and only show compassion when I want to manipulate someone. And I don't pretend to be all yummy and sweet and empathic and kind and goddessy and all that shit, and then pull out the freaking aggressive when I want to go and manipulate someone. And that's what I see with this deification of humans, females and males, is they put on one front, and then when they really want to get their point across, people get surprised the fact that they pulled out the other side of them that they've kept hidden. And so that's when I know when I'm dealing with manipulators, is when they put on one front of, oh, I'm so sweet, so loving, so compassionate, and so supportive. And then when you challenge them, or you don't like their behavior, or they're trying to take over in some way, and then you challenge them, and then all of a sudden they're not sticky, sweet, and empathic anymore. Now they're a mean little bitch. And you're like, holy shit, where did that come from? Oh my God. And then I realized that's what actually runs them. But the sticky, sweet, nicey, I'm so empathic gives them so many reviews, and it makes them a goddess or a god. And that's the manipulation of mankind, is the fronts out there that are being put out by people, place, and things that are selling something, that are promoting an idea, that are wanting to be a cult leader, is they put on a front. Okay? And you have someone like Trump that puts on an aggressive front. And then you have someone that's like, I'm trying to think of someone, like a Betty White, who puts out, oh, I'm so kind front. But I'm sure she has a dark side to her that she doesn't show to anyone. But her kind, I'm so sweet and funny and laughy, wins her great reviews, and it deifies her. Okay? And so all these fronts that people have, it's all like a false face, because people have different levels of hormones, but one has been cultivated to then create a godlike status, a goddess-like status. And then people gravitate towards that because they don't want to take responsibility for their own selves. They want someone else to be responsible for teaching them, for making them laugh, making them cry, making them feel like whatever. And then this is where the disappointment, because then people expect something, or they don't realize that there's other shit going on. And then when they don't like a behavior from their celebrity status, from their celebrity friend or family, or someone who is, they've been worshiping and following, then it's that resistance. And so that's the psychological side of God and demigods. And the gods are the immortal ones that understood the balance of salt and sugar. And when they came down and had sex with the daughters of men, then they created the demigods. And those were half immortal and half not. But they weren't really immortal, because you can't be really half. You're either immortal or immortal. But the person has a choice because they understand. But they're not giving that information to all the mortals out there. And so everyone that is like right now a demigod doesn't realize they are, because they've been hidden the information. And then when new information comes in, they can't evolve. And so I get it now, and that's why I understand why I had the gut reactions around certain people, and why it's right now better to be alone, because there's a lot of false fronts that are being put out there, a lot of manipulation, a lot of exploitation. And at this point, stay home, stay safe. Do the best you can to get through in this world. Have a very, very, very small circle, because you have no idea who is really undermining you, because the false face, the false front will deceive the shit out of you. And so if you don't understand actions versus words, then you'll be mesmerized by the words and the energy, but then you won't look at people's actions. And even vice versa, people can act a certain way and say they love you, or in a way like what put off like some kind of love stuff, but then they tell you all these things that are like hateful. So then you're so confused, you don't know what to think. And that's somebody's war within. That's humans' war within, is when they have an unbalanced spirit of body, mind, and spirit, and then they go and deify themselves and worship other people, and then manipulate other people to get ahead. And so this is why we have such wars in our society, because people realize this and they understand this, but they don't realize and understand this. So then they feel bad feelings and they don't know why. And then they start blaming a person, place, or thing. And so I said, in a way, you all have the opportunity to be God, but what turns a person into either like a demigod or just a demigod, not a regular God, when you think about it, is when you are loving and hating somebody else. Okay? You're not a god, but you're a demigod. And when you have that much projection onto somebody else, and you're that dependent on other people, you have deified them, then yeah, you're immortal. When you think about it, you're not even a demigod, you're immortal. Demigods are immortals. It's either you're God or you're immortal. Demigods just people who, they shouldn't even exist. All right, but I get it now. Now I got to find a way to articulate it. Okay, bye.